Last February, Republic Services released their 10K annual report concerning their yearly numbers for 2022. And because we covered Republic Services before as one of the first stocks covered on this channel, I figured we'd have a look at those 2022 numbers and see exactly how they hold up against the projection that we made back in the day. So when we move over here to their consolidated statement of comprehensive income, on page 94, we do see that their revenue has been increasing by about 20% here in 2022, 10% of which is due to an acquisition that they made of US Ecology. We also see a vast increase in the cost of operation, as well as in depreciation, amortization, and depletion. We also see here that the amount of shares outstanding has been reduced from 319 million all the way to 317 million, so they continuously buy back shares, which of course increases the diluted earnings per share for you as the shareholder, which has been increasing drastically for the past few years because they've been able to increase their revenue, increase their earnings, and they've been buying back shares. So this very much boosts your EPS as a shareholder. So what I did is I took all these numbers and put them into a new Excel spreadsheet to see exactly how they weigh up against the projections that we made and see what we can expect here in the future. Looking at their projection here from 2022 that we projected last time we had a look at their numbers, I predicted them to have an EBITDA of about $3.5 billion. And the free cash flow per share of around $5. Back then the share price was $124, so let's see exactly how they actually did. I'm going to put this to the side here and open up my 2022 spreadsheet, and what we can see here that for 2022 they published an EBITDA of $3.8 billion, which far exceeds our projection for $3.5 billion. So they basically smashed the projection that we made. 2 years in a row they had an EBITDA and revenue growth well beyond the 10%. Of course, it is important to realize that this growth is not just natural growth. They did a major acquisition, which we'll have a look at in a second as well, because we do see that that debt number has been growing by about 2 billion here in the last year, which is not a problem because of course their EBITDA has also grown, so they still lie within that 3 times multiple that we deem to be safe for investment. This is the point where they still get senior level lending and their interest rates are relatively low. Taking a look over at that cash flow from operations, we see a massive increase once again of about 15%, which is in line, I think, with their EBITDA growth there as well. Capital expenditure has only increased by about 100 million, which is not that much considering the growth of that cash flow. But this is also where we see the acquisition that they made. So they spent about 3 billion in 2022 on acquisitions, of which 2.2 billion went to the US Ecology. We also see a free cash flow per share of $5.58, which is again way beyond what we expected them to earn in 2022. We expected $5.10, they did $5.58. So they basically smashed the projection that I gave for them, which is of course very attractive to us as investors. They did a major acquisition here in 2022, which was completely funded by debt and not by equity. So we as a shareholder are not diluted by this acquisition, and we only reap the benefits of their increased revenue and increased earnings. So this is of course very attractive for us as investors. So let's see exactly what the share price did over the last few months. So on December 31st, 2022, Republic Services noted a share price of $129.68. And we can see here for the last 4-ish years, their price has basically remained the same here. The historic yield is 3.6% and the current yield here was 4.3%. Their average EV/EBITDA ratio is 13.6, which is also the number that they had in 2022. So I think in 2022, I think it's fair to say that Republic Services was relatively well valued. Now, if we take the same growth metric that we gave Republic Services in our last projection of about 4% EBITDA growth, which I think is relatively in line with their overall expectations, I think these last 2 numbers very much skew their overall numbers, and I think 4% is a nice conservative estimate to keep on projecting this company forward. If we do that for the first 4 years of 4% and then reduce it to 3%, we maintain the multiple of around 15 times, because I do think that 13.6 is a bit on the low end of things. So I think that their multiple will come up considering their steady earnings and their steady growth. Divide this by the amount of shares outstanding, and I expect their share price in 2032 to be $218 If we take a look at their free cash flow model, which is then projecting forward from the free cash flow they booked here in 2022 of $5.58, and we add 7% to this for the first 4 years and then 6% for the last 6 years, we maintain a free cash flow yield of about 4%, which is a bit higher than their average yield, so this bakes in a little bit of more conservatism into our price projection. This gives us then a stock price 10 years from now of $259.41. If we have a look over at these numbers, which is then quite a step up from what we expected last time in 2031. Last time I expected 2031 to yield a share price of 191, and now I expect 2032, so 1 year later, right, to have a share price of $218. So let's look at the share price on the open market right now. On the open market, I can buy as many shares of Republic Services as I want for $141.22. For the last 6 months, their share price has increased from $129 all the way to $141. So the market definitely realized once this report came out in February that Republic Services was on a very steady growth potential here, and the market priced this in. So we did see a appreciation in their share price, and with the current share price, given our estimations for 2032, which is an average share price of $238, I expect a compounding annual growth rate, so a growth rate on the stock market alone of 5.4%. But the moment that we include the free cash flow per share that we can expect here in 2032, and this does not include any share buybacks that may be increasing this number even more, I expect an internal rate of return of 11.2% with the current share price and the current growth projections. Last time we looked at Republic Services, I expected, let's see, a compounding annual growth rate of 6.7% and an IRR of around 11%, which I think is in line with what I currently expect. So I think overall the market priced in the fact that Republic Services very much beat their earnings, and I don't think Republic Services is a more attractive buy right now as it was about 6 months ago. I still think it's a very attractive purchase. I still think it's a very reasonable and steady stock to hold in any diversified portfolio, and I am definitely keeping this as part of my portfolio as well. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheerio!